Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Yevamos Daf Lamedal. We are actually holding right on top of the Amud Uman Haitana, but perhaps let's go back. Let's go back to the Mishnah to get a glimpse of the content of the upcoming sugyo. So the Mishnah is Lamed Gimel and Beis, upwards about 15-20 lines. So we have a case of two people, Shnayim Shekichu Shtei Noshim, two individuals who are Mekadesh, two women. When we speak about Kedushin, of course, it's the Kedushin as in the times of the Chazal, where the Kedushin preceded the marriage by months or perhaps a year, unlike today's engagement, which isn't really that formal initiation of marriage, although it does carry commitment and is halachically binding, but it's not the Kedushin that we're speaking about. Today we actually do it together with the Nisuim, so it's like almost 10 minutes apart. Kedushin, then the Nisuim. In any case, these fellows were Mekadesh. Reuben was Mekadesh. Rachel, Shimon, Leah. A while later they had their marriage. Ubishas knisasan lechuppah. And when they came to chuppah, ichlifu eshel zel lezeh v'eshel zel lezeh. There was a swap, a mistaken swap. Rachel went to Shimon, Leah went to Reuven, and they interacted as married. Now, what happens as a result? We have many liabilities. Hare'elu chayovin, they are chayiv many chatois. How's that? Mishum eses ish. Simple, right? Reuven was married to Rachel. Shimon married to Leah. When they switched, they each interacted with their friend's wife, which is an eshes ish. Now, let's say Reuven and Shimon were actually also brothers. You add another liability. So each one is considered your brother's wife. If they were sisters as well, you add another one. One may not marry his wife's sister. If they were actually in a nida state at that point, you add a fourth. Isur nida mishum nida. Okay, let's jump back over to our Gemara on Lamedal Amaraf. Says the Gemara on the top, "Uman haitana de isli isur koilo, v'isur mois, v'isur basachas." You see in the Mishnah, it seems clear that although the Isha already has one isur, she's laden with isurim, she's saturated with an isur. We add more and more and more. Isur chalal isur. You can apply one isur on top of the other one. Why is that? Because it's either isur koilo, or it's isur moisif, or it's Isur Bas Achas. As Rashi explains, it's as follows. Let's just see Rashi inside. Uman Haitana. Who is the author of our Mishnah? Who subscribes to all different methods of piling up Isurim. And this is why we hold him accountable for all four. Uman Haitana the Masnisin, says Rashi. The Isli Isur Chalal Isur. Who holds of Isur being Chal on the other one. Bein Al Yidei Koil, whether it's by way of the Koil method. Bein bi Isur Moisif, whether it's by way of the Isur Moisif method, Bein al Yidei Bas Achas, or through the Bas Achas method. Rashi will explain for us. Keep going. Elu shechayovin arba chatos. These fellows have to bring 4 times chatos. Why? How's that? When Reuven was Mekadesh Rachel, at that very point, what happens? Ne'esra al Shimon mishum eshes ach, ve'eshes ish. 2 isurim get activated at that very moment. Rachel to Shimon is asur, A, on account of her being his brother's wife, and B, a married woman. V'hainu basachas. That's a simultaneous arrival of 2 isurim, and it works. And therefore, Shimon is accountable on both accounts. Furthermore, Chazar Shimon v'kidesh Leah. Shimon proceeds and marries Leah. So why are we going to add another Isser onto Rachel, who is already Asr to begin with on account of the first 2 Isser? Isser can't land on the other one. The answer is Migu, on account of the following. Migu da Asr lehanach kedushin. Bikulu sharach vasa. Mishum achis Isha. Since by way of Shimon being Mekadesh Leah, you know what happens? That Isser of achis Isha gets activated on account of the other sisters, the unmarried sisters, who are not yet Asr. There is Sarah in the family, there's Bilhah, there's Zilpah. On account of that, we include Rachel as well. You see, you can't necessarily apply another direct Isser on Rachel. She's already Asr. But if the Isser the second time around, on account of the second event, on account of Shimon marrying Leah, attracts other people as well, includes other people, on account of that, we can just sweep in Rachel into the picture as well. Rachel, who's technically his brother's wife, acquires another Isser. She is now also Achay's Isha. Even though the Asura between Shimon and Rachel, there is a pre-existing Isser. In line with the concept of Isser Kailo. So now she has 3 Isser. Eshasach and Eshasish, which happen at the same time. Basachas. On top of that, we add Achay's Isha, which is considered Isser Kailo. How do we get to the 4th Isser? V'adayin Rachel zu mutaris l'Ruvain bala. Even at this point, Rachel is mutter, completely mutter, to her husband Ruvain. But Pirsa Nida, once she turns into a Nida, she becomes Asr to him. Right? So the most recent event, the fact that she turned into a Nida, adds, it expands, it enhances her Isser with respect to her husband, who was mutter in her until this point. That's called Isser Moisif. Migudi Toisaf Isser Allah Lagabi Bala Misham Nida. Since Nida will now expand her Isser, will attract her husband as well, will make her more Asr on more people. On top of the fact that she's Asr to Shimon because of the reasons we mentioned, she's now also Asr to Reuven. So the Isser in this object itself gets expanded and enhanced and is farther reaching than before. Because of that, a Toisaf Banami Isser Lagabi Shimon, we expand it to Shimon as well. So Isser Moisef means that the item itself, Isser, has gotten bigger and expanded. It affected more people, and therefore, by way of Isser Moisef, will include Shimon into the picture as well, despite the fact that he already was Asr in Rachel. Hare Isser Moisef, so now he has a total of 4 Isurim. Again, Reuven married Rachel. She becomes Asr to Shimon on account of Eshesach and Eshesish, which happened Bivas Achas, and that's okay. Right? They both came at the same point. One can't elbow the other one out of the way. They both came to the same point. Shimon marries Leah, as a result of which he becomes Asr and all the other sisters on account of Achayis Isha. It's going to include Rachel as well. Rachel becomes a Nida. This state affects her husband. She becomes an enhanced. She goes up a level. She becomes Asr to her husband as well. Her Isser intensifies and expands to her husband. So we're going to include Shimon as well. And once it's activated with respect to Reuben, it gets activated with respect to Shimon as well. He's included into this Isser, and now he has 4 problems. Eishes, Aishesish, Achais, Ishanit. Who is this Tana? Whose Shita is this, that we allow all these methods to be employed in applying Isser on top of Isser on top of Isser? Oh, Marvidam Arav, I found a Shita, Rabbi Meiri. The Sanyu. Yesh Eichel Achila Achas. We can even have a case where a fellow will have one Achila, he eats just a kezayis of whatever it is. Guess how many liabilities that carries? He has to bring 4 carbon chatos and 1 asham. He's a tamei. She'achal chelub, who ate forbidden fats. Vu noisa, which happens to be a leftover part of the carbon, which in itself is asher b'achila, irrespective of the chelev aspect. Min ha-mikdashin, it's part of a carbon. B'yom kippurim, it's also Yom Kippur. So you get 4 chatois because if one eats carbon when he's tamei, that's 1. Number 2, it's chelev. Number 3, it's noiser. Number 4, he's eating on Yom Kippur. And the asham is because he's benefiting from a carbon. It's a separate liability. Asham ilois. Now Rashi explains, even if he would be a kayin and partaking in the imurei carbon, the chalavim that belong on the mizbeach, he would have to be chayev as meila. Okay, so that's a Tanakama. 4 and 1. Reb Meir, I'll add another one. Imhaya Shabbos. If that day happened to be Shabbos as well, v'yotzia bepiv, and he actually carried the food out in his mouth. So he's chewing the chelev and carrying it into the street, from his house into the street. He has committed haitzah as well. He transported an item from a private domain to public domain. He's chayiv for that as well. Amr lois, they told him, well, Eina min Hashem. Theoretically, you're right, but it's not related to what he's doing here. We're trying to find a combination of many isurim, which will be featured in one maisa achila. Carrying is unrelated to eating, so it's almost like saying, well, he also turned on the light while he ate, and he also was driving his car. Rameya disagrees, by the way. Rav Taisus explains, because really you can ask a kasha. Why is he chayiv? For hoitzah, we know that there are two elements. There are two parts, two ingredients, two required ingredients in the masa and the melacha of carrying. Akira, you have to lift it from one rishus, and hanocha, you have to place it in the other rishus. Here he's just eating and he's not actually placing it down anyway. So where is the hanocha? So Taisus says, just like we find in the Gemara Shabbos, a fellow takes some ink, some wet ink, and walks outside, and as he's walking, he's writing on a piece of parchment. He's chayiv. What do you mean? Where's the hanacha? The answer is ksivasan zu hanachasan. Actually, imprinting these letters, imprinting the ink on that paper is considered the hanacha, even though it's fluttering, it's being transported, it's still moving along. It never actually was placed in a stationary position. The answer is because hanacha actually just means it arrived. It arrived at its destination. The ink is meant to sit on paper. It arrived. That's called hanacha. Likewise, over here, says Taisus, this fellow is chewing chelav, walking in the street, and he swallows that chelav, despite the fact that he's just walking and walking. That's called hanacha, because the chelav has arrived. It has arrived at its destination in this fellow's internal system. That's what it's meant to be. And that completes the melacha of carrying, of haitzah. Therefore, says Taisus, I understand why Rameir associates the melacha of haitzah with achila. It's one and the same. The reason why it is considered a proper melacha of carrying and hanacha is because of the fact that he's eating it and swallowing it. That constitutes arrival. That is considered hanacha, which completes the ma'aseh haitzah. That was Rameir's opinion. Interesting. In any case, getting back to our discussion, we found the address. It's Reb Meir. Reb Meir holds that Isser Koilel can apply, Isser Moisiv can apply, Isser Basachet can apply as well. How's that? Okay, let's go back to Rashi. It really presents it very clearly. So Rashi here will be 22 lines from the top. It's right in the middle of a Divrei Masel. He starts explaining how we get to the 4 chatois and 1 asham by way of the Isser, Koilel, Moisiv, and Basachas. Says Rashi, Dehahach. Because in this case, let's break it down. Let's take it step by step. When this behemoth was formed, was basically born, right? It was a non-carbon animal. At that point, the first Isser arrives. Nesra chelba b'achila. One may not partake in its chelav. Okay? So right off the bat, it has Isser chelav. Umuter b'hana. You can't eat the chelav, but you can have hana from it. So it's a limited, restricted Isser. It's just Isser achila. Hukdisha, once you are magdish the animal, what happens? Megud itoisef. Isser hana ala chelav v'shum kachim. At this point, when you are magdish, the chelav became, so to speak, more us. In addition to the achila restriction, one may not benefit from the chelav. That's called Isser Moisiv. So the Isser in this item was enhanced by the second event. And therefore, Itoisef Beinami Isser Achila Mishum Zoros. Va'afagav the Osir B'koi B'achila. The fact that this chelav became, so to speak, more Osir, there's more element of Isser embedded in this chelav. It's also Osir B'hana. It will also facilitate the arrival of an Isra Achila on account of the fact that it became kosher. That's called Isser Moisef. Right? The second event brought about an enhancement in the chaticha, in the item, and therefore we take the liberty. We go and add more and more Isser. We say, look, it's Asr on account of the fact that it became a carbon. What do you mean it was Asr before because of just being simply Chelev, but the fact that it became a carbon brought about an enhancement in the Isser. And therefore we consider him liable on both accounts. Isra Achilas Chelev and Isra Achilas Kach. Okay, so that's Isra Moisef. Next. Vavagav the Asr B'Koy B'Achila. At this point it's Asr B'Achila, right? Havale Noisef, but when it becomes leftover from a carbon, now we say like this. We apply Isra Moisef again to give it another a reason for Isra Achila. Miku di Toisef Isra L'Mizbeach Mishum Noisef. The fact that it became leftovers makes it Asr L'Mizbeach as well. You can't be marked of it anymore. So the Isra in this item once again became intensified and enhanced and expanded. Is now farther reaching with more ramification. Includes more aspects of Isra. And therefore it includes another aspect of Isra Achila as well. We bring that in again. We consider it Asr Ba'achila as well for this new reason. Okay? So now it's Isra Achilas Chelev, Isra Achilas Carbon, Isra Achilas Noiser. Hari Hanach Trey, so the Isra Achilas Noiser and carbon are Mishum Isra Moisef, because of the Moisef concept as we explained. Now, Nitmazeh, and this fellow who's going to eat this thing, when he became tummy, up until this point he could have eaten all other karbanis, but once he became tummy, it becomes asr in those chatichos, in those items. This is going to be isr koilel. So the second, most recent event, the fact that he became tummy, affected him with respect to other items. So since that isr becomes activated with respect to other things, it's going to affect this one as well. Since he becomes tummy in other items on account of his tumah, we apply the isr to this item as well. It's also included in that new isr, and there's another reason for isr achila behind isr koilel. And finally, Yom Kippur. Havali Yom Kippur. Migu the mitzvah b'chulu mishum Yom Kippur. Here's another version of isr koilel. And Yom Kippur, he must refrain from eating anything. So Yom Kippur's arrival heralds a brand new expanded Isser applying to all types of items. And therefore we include this one as well. Also nami b'kachim mishum Yom Kippurim painu nami Isser koilel. Now, we explain where we see Isser Moisef, where we see Isser koilel. What about Isser bevas achas? Where do you find that? From Rabbi Meir. The fact that Rabbi Meir adds another aspect of Eitzos Shabbos. That's because of the simultaneous arrival of two Isurim. How? Because when Shabbos and Yom Kippur arrive, it was the same day, right? At that point, the Isurim of Shabbos and Yom Kippur were both introduced simultaneously. And that allows us to consider him guilty of Achilas Yom Kippur and Hoitzolos Shabbos, because they're both considered Isser B'Vasachas. So it's clear that Rameir holds of all types of methods of compiling Yisurim, Koilel, Moisef, and Vasachas. And he appears to be the Tana of our Mishnah as well, who holds him liable of all four, for all four Yisurim. And as we explained, it's only because it's based on all these concepts of Koilel, Moisef, and Vasachas. Continues the Gemara. Okay, so we laid that to rest. We have one more shayla. For Rabbi Meir Liba Deman, Rabbi Meir was a Talmud of Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua, whose shita is reflected in his words. The fact that this fellow who is eating karbanes is held accountable and has to bring chatos. Is he following Rabbi Shua? That wouldn't work. Rabbi Shua tells us ta b'dvar mitzvah. Pata, even if the fellow didn't have but he was trying to do a mitzvah, he was preoccupied with a mitzvah. Classic case there is you have a male with babies to attend to, and he did the wrong one on the wrong date. It was Shabbos. ended up doing a malacha. He's potter because he was preoccupied with mitzvah. He was trying to do the right thing, and therefore there's no chatas. So in our case, this fellow was actually trying to eat a korban. Sorry. The kasha is back on the Mishnah. Apologize. Back to the Mishnah. Mishnah speaks about a fellow who was trying to get married, and he ended up with the wrong wife. We hold him accountable. He has to bring all those korbanos. What do you mean? According to Rabbi Yehuda, Tov b'dvar mitzvah is potter. Right? If you do an avera, but you were trying to do the right thing, you're potter. There's no chatas. Ela alib the Rabbi Lezer. Also according to Rabbi Lezer, even in a Tov b'dvar mitzvah holds him accountable. Ibo Yisem, another teretz can be lo elam alib the Rabbi Yehuda. We're following Rabbi Yehuda, but there's a difference. Ki kamer Rabbi Yehuda Tov b'dvar mitzvah potter. When does Rabbi Yehuda absolve him of the liability when it's a dvar mitzvah involvement? That's when he has the babies to be mal. There's money ball because he's anxious. It's time sensitive. It's today, not tomorrow, right? There's a mitzvah on the 8th day. There's a zman grama, and of course that can contribute to his confusion. So we sort of justify what happened. Aval hai, but this fellow who's getting married, sure, it's a mitzvah to get married, but another day won't hurt. Hai kimanein zman ball. It's not really so time sensitive. Loi, there's no excuse, no reason he should have paid attention to what was going on. Asks the Gemara, really, it depends on whether or not he's over anxious, whether it's something which is time sensitive. Vari truma, we have an example of achilas truma. Truma is not something you have to eat today rather than tomorrow. Vika patan, we find that Rabbi Yehuda exempts him. This fellow was eating truma thinking that he was a kohen, and it turns out he wasn't. Ben grusha, it turns out that he was a son of a divorcee, or ben chalutza, or a son of a isha, went through chalitza, who went ahead and married a kohen, which of course is an avera, which generates a chalal. The child is now unfit for kahuna, cannot eat truma. And this he only found out later. What happens? Does he have to pay up? Rabbi Lezer Machayev Karen Mechamish, he has to pay the principal plus the fifth. He's penalized for eating truma. Rabbi Yehuda says he's potter. Why? Fact is, he thought he was doing a mitzvah. What do you mean? It's not time sensitive. We have a pshat in that Mishnah. We're speaking about this fellow eating truma, which was chametz on Erev Pesach. This is man a ball. He's in a big rush to catch it before he saves man achila, and therefore we sort of justify the confusion. Okay, so going to the first approach in the Gemara, our Mishnah, which applies 4 chatois to this fellow who married the wrong wife, is based on Rameya's Shita, as we explained. Another pshat can be be'isur basachas. The 4 liabilities in the Mishnah are based on the concept of isur basachas. V'aliv the Reb Shimon, in line with the Reb Shimon Shita. Reb Shimon, although perhaps he doesn't hold of Isur Koilil and Isur Meisiv, but if both Isurim are introduced at this very same moment, they both apply. And that's the case of our Mishnah. You can have all those 4 Isurim, Eishes Ish, Achos Ish, Eishes Sach, and either arriving simultaneously at the very same moment. Now you'll think, how? How is that possible? The Gemara will explain. When it comes to the marriage-related Isurim, arayas such as brother's wife, right? Brother's wife, achos isha, eishes ish. We can figure out how they will all arrive at the very same moment. You know how? The shavinu shliach. What happened was that the women, they appointed a shliach. So here it's Rachel and Leah. They designated a fellow to accept Kiddushin on their behalf. Right? Vishavu inu shliach. And likewise, the 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon, they didn't bother going and finding the Nashim personally. They sent a shliach to take care of it for them. Upaga shliach b'shliach. And the shluchim met each other on the road. And they exchanged the rings. And at that very moment, what happened? Rachel was now Mekudesh to Reuven, and Leah to Shimon. And everything happened at the same time. right? So Rachel became Shimon's Eishes Ach, brother's wife, and Eishes Ish at this very same moment, and the Aches Isha, because at that very same moment he was Mekudesh to Leah, which results in Rachel being considered Aches Isha. So those three Yisurim, which are basically marriage related, could have happened at the same very moment through this one Maaseh Kedushin between one Shliach and the other. Ella Nida is Hechem Eshkachsla. But the fourth Isser Nida, how does that happen at the same moment? Amar Amram Amara, very simple. B'shayfa is Mitoich Gimel La'acha Shleisha Asar L'chayuv Inhu. Mitoich Shneim Asar La'acha Shneim Asar L'chayuv Inhi. We know that a Katan who was 13 and a bit is considered a responsible adult. Likewise, by Iktana, by a girl, it's 12. Rashi says like this: both were born on the first day of Tishrei. Different years. Right? So he was born Echad b'Tishrei Tafshin Ayin. She was born Echad b'Tishrei, exactly 1 year later, Tafshin Ayin Aleph. Now, Rosh Hashanah, Echad b'Tishrei of Tafshin Ayin Gimel, which is actually when he turns Bar Mitzvah, right? At that very moment, she'll turn Bas Mitzvah. She'll become a G'dayla. Now, let's say she became a Nida before Echad b'Tishrei arrived, and she's still in a Nida state when they both turn adults. And when they turn adults, they are responsible for these Yisurim. Right? Isur Nida only kicks in when they turn adults. And Rashi adds that the Kedushin ceremony we discussed earlier between the two Shluchim also occurred prior to them, to the men and women becoming adults. So they made a Kedushin with that condition that's going to become activated as soon as they both turn adults. Here you go. So all four aspects arrived at the same very moment. The Kedushin was Chal, and the Isur Nida arrived at that moment that they turned adults. So all four are Isur Bas Achas. So again, Rav says B'Shayfa. B'Shayfa is the lashon of producing dam, meaning she was in a state of Nida, starting from before they became adults, continuously until after they became adults. So as soon as they became an adult, she was in a state of Nida. Mitoich Yud Gimel, within 13 years, until La'achar Shleishasa, until after he turned 13, L'chiyuv Inu. This is going to trigger the Chiv on the men's side, and it actually corresponded to 12 on her side, Mitoich Shneim Asar. She started her Nida before she turned 12, La'achar Shneim Asar until after she turned 12. So as soon as she turned 12, she was in a state of Nida, which corresponds to the moment that he turns 13, because remember, they turned 12 and 13 at the same moment. They were born a year apart, right? The Chiyuv Inni, which will trigger a Chiyuv on the women's side. So here we go, all four Yisurim arrive at the same time. So bottom line is, we had a Mishnah, which described a swap of Nashim, which resulted in many Yisurim being done. And actually, Rabbi Yehuda tells us it's a total of 16 Chatois, because there are 4 people here, 2 men, 2 women, each one committing 4 Yisurim, a total of 16 animals, 16 Karbanos. Which Yisurim do we have? We have Eishes Ish, Eishes Ach, Nida, and Achos Isha. Who is the author of the Mishnah? Who is the Imam Omar? We have 2 options, either a Meir, who adopts Isur Bas Achas, Isur Moisev, and Isur Koil. So when Reuben married Leah, Rachel became Neishes Ish and Neishes Ach on Shimon, that's Isur Bas Achas. When Rachel turns on Nida, that Isur affects her husband, Reuben, therefore it affects Shimon as well, by way of Isur Moisev. When Shimon marries Leah, which generates an Isur between himself and the other unmarried sisters, it's going to turn around and include Rachel as well, by way of Isur Koil. Now, although he's trying to do a mitzvah and marrying somebody, but it's not considered a reason to exempt him. even Tober Dvar Mitzvah is chayiv in accordance with Rabbi Elazar Shita, or following Rabbi Yeshua, typically Tober Dvar Mitzvah is chayiv unless it's Zamanoi Bohol, is something that provokes anxiety, it's a time-related rushed event. Here it doesn't really qualify, and therefore it's chayiv. Rabbi Shimon is the second option. He will hold that Isur Bavas Achas can be piled one on top of the other. And when speaking about that very case, the Kedushin and the Isser, Nida liabilities all happened at the same moment. They all got triggered at the same very second. Therefore, they all are applied in accordance with the concept of Isser B'Vasachas. Okay, getting back to the Mishnah. So there was a mishap. There was an exchange of noshim. Mishnah says, Ma'afrishin Oisen, we require a separation period. We quarantine them, so to speak, for a period of 3 months. This way we ensure that the child born is a miyuchas. We know where and what, who's the father. What do you mean? This is the first marital relation. B'Rishayna can't generate a child because of the besulim that blocks. So in any case, there's no concern about pregnancy. Amar Nachman, Amar Rabbi Baravo, Shabalu V'Shana was speaking that there was a bia and once again, and therefore there is a concern of a child. If we're speaking about a double interaction, why does Rabbi Chia say Harikan Tezayin Chatois? This unfortunate incident results in 16 Chatois. If there was a double interaction, then Tlasin V'Tartan Havin, it's actually 32. According to every emission of Zera generates a new Chatas. Tu B'Havian, so you have many Isurim, not just 16 or 32. We're speaking about the first element of the Bia. Hachinamid Bia Rishayin Kechasha, we're speaking about the first interaction. But yeah, make the math and figure it out yourself. Okay, we're off to a tangent. We're speaking about this concept that Ein Isha Misaberes B'Bir Rishayna. What about Tamar? Her interaction with Yehuda was her first interaction, and how is it that there was a child born? Actually, a twin. Right? There's Peretz and a pair of children, Peretz and Zarach. How does the Gemara know that this was her first interaction? We're going to see soon in a minute. So how did that work? So he told him, Tamar be'etzba ma'acha. She removed the psulim by way of her finger, so that cleared the Pesach, Rashi says, cleared the channel, which allowed her to become pregnant even from Bia Rishon. Don't Rabbi Yitzchak, Kol Moyachish shall base Rebbe, all the women in the Rebbe's home who would do this type of procedure, remove the psulim manually in order to enable them to become pregnant right away. Tamar Shmon, they used to be nicknamed Tamar. Why? Veloma Nikra Shmon. Tamar, why Tamar? Al Shem Tamar, on account of Tamar Shemacha Betzba, who did the same thing. Now, getting back to our Kasha, Tamar's interaction with Yehuda was her first Bia. How do you know? She was previously married to not only one man, to two. Er and Oinan. Vahavu Er v'Oinan. What about them? Answers the Gemara. Er v'Oinan, those two, Shimsha Shalei Kedarkan, they interacted in a non-conventional way, and it did not affect her psulim. It was in the it wasn't in the proper area. Meisvei, here comes a kash. Kol esrim v'arbo chodesh. The Mishnah speaks about an isha who's nursing, and there's a concern about her becoming expecting again, which would encroach, which would interfere with her ability to nurse properly. So what's the solution? Dosh mibifnim. So this fellow should prepare the haitzah zera within the guf of the isha, but actually v'zerim bachutz, he should be mighty the zera outside the guf of the isha, which would avoid any chashash, any concern of ibur. Whose shita is this? David Rabbi Elazar. Amr Loi, the Chacham says, no way, this is not the way to do it. That's terrible. Halolu, these fellows who follow this procedure, Einoi Elo Kemase Erva Oinan, this is like Erva Oinan who wasted their zera. Clearly, Erva Oinan would interact conventionally. right? And that's how the Chacham are describing this fellow, who is Dash B'fnim, the Ever was in the guf of the Isha. So then, it's clear that Erev Einan would disrupt the Besulim when they interacted with Tamar. So why is Tamar considered an Isha with Besulim? And says the Gemara, Kemas Erev Einan, true, that the Brisa is comparing this fellow to Erev Einan, V'loi Kemas Erev Einan, but it wasn't exactly what they did. On the one hand, Kemas Erev Einan, he's compared to them, Dechsev V'hoyem Ba Elishas Acha V'shichas Arza, when Einan would approach his the Tamar, who was actually formerly his brother's wife, he wouldn't allow the Zerah, he would divert his Zerah. So, on the one hand, this fellow who's doing a similar thing is following his footsteps. He's not directing his Zerah properly. But on the other hand, it's a bit different than them. This fellow at least is interacting properly. But they, the Ilu Hasam of this Leikadarka, was non-conventionally, he was in a different makom in the guf. But over here, by this fellow, he is interacting properly. In other words, physically he's doing the same thing, but actually the Zerah itself is being diverted. So bottom line is, Tamar never had a conventional interaction with Erev Einan, therefore she was considered in a state of a Besula, and that was the notion that we're working with, the basis for the Kasha of how could Yehuda actually create Ibur through the Bir Rishon, and the answer was Be'etz B'miacha, the Besulim were disrupted manually. Now, the Gemara is working with the notion that Erev Einan diverted their Zerah. Where do we see this in the Pesukim? By Einan we see he diverted his Zerah. Ella Er Menolan, how do we know that Er did the same thing? Hashem brought death upon Einan. It says Gam, which indicates that he was doing the same as his brother, which means that Er, his brother, was guilty of the same offense. Afhu ba'isa misa meis, which indicates that Er, as well, died on account of this offense. Now, why did they do this at all? What was their motive? Bishleima Einan, we understand why Einan, the second husband, tried to avoid a situation of Ibur. Why? Mishum loy yazor. He knew that when one is miyabim, his brother's wife, such as in this case when he was sort of taking over Tamar, his brother's widow, he knew that the potential child born from this interaction, relates back to his brother. It identifies with his brother. Perhaps they would even name him after his brother. And the Ramban has a whole arichas in Chumash. They knew the secrets of Gilgulim, and Neshamas, that the Neshama of the departed brother will now be reintroduced through this new child. It doesn't really relate to the new father, it's the other fellow. And he wasn't interested. What about Er? Er was the first husband. Why did he engage in this inappropriate behavior? Answer is Kadesh Leitis Aber V'Yachish Yaftia. He was concerned that as a result of her becoming expectant, her beauty will be disrupted, and therefore he avoided that. Okay. Tana Rabbanon. Here's a pasuk describing Tumas Keri. The pasuk reads as follows: V'Isha Asher Yishkav Isha Isa Shichva Sarah. So a man and woman interact. V'Rachzu B'Mayim V'Tomu Adar. They need to be toivel. The Masa Tashmish creates a tumah, and they both need to be toivel. The pasuk features the word oisa. V'isha asher yishkav isha oisa. Oisa is generally an exclusion, a miyut. It limits the halacha. Tana Rabban oisa. Only this woman needs to be toivel. Prat lekala, as opposed to a kala, there's no need to be toivel. David Rabbi Yehuda. Oisa is excluding a masa tashmish, a physical interaction which is not conventional. Amar le'Hoin, that was his name. Hoin breid Rav Nachman l'Rav Nachman. Le'ma kasav Rabbi Yehuda. Let's explore Rabbi Yehuda. Why are we giving a pass to the kala? HaTorah chasa al tashite kala? Is it because the Torah is concerned that the makeup and all the tachshitim, that were invested in the kala will become disrupted and washed away. That's why we give her a break? Is that the reason? Amar Lazy says absolutely not. That's not the reason. Rather, because this interaction, this first interaction, will not have potential to generate a child. And the pasuk says, "Ish asher yishkav isha shichva zera." It's not going to make zera. It's not going to generate an offspring. V'she'ein isha misaberes maybe a rishon. It's the first time around. Therefore, there's no ibur. There's no children, and there's no. It's not considered a proper interaction, and doesn't carry this type of consequence. So once again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we exempt the kala because the fact is this bia doesn't create zera, or according to Rabbanon, a kala is included, but shaloi kedarka from the back, that's not considered a proper ma'aseh bia. But what's the point of this machlekes? How do we explain it? Rabbanon Sabri, when it says shichva zera, it's coming to include something. Prat laha'ara. Hara is just a partial contact between the man and the woman. That type of incomplete ma'aseh bia, which Rashi says does not generate zera, that's not included in shichva zera. Doesn't create tumah. The word oisa is mamayit prat l'shloi kedarka, because again, these aren't conventional forms of bia. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, shloi kedarka v'ha'ara, both those cases, mishchach zera nafka, can be excluded from the same word. Shloi kedarka, Rashi says, is not the mokim zera. It's not the mokim in the isha which is meant to accept zera. And ha'ara, the partial contact there, not a full entry in the isha. That's not something which generates zera. Physically, it's not something that generates zera. So they're both excluded from the same word, shichas zera, which requires a proper ma'aseh bia. So now we have the word oisa, which is available to exclude prat lekala. Although by the kala it's a proper, the proper form of interaction, but since the isha is not capable of becoming mu'beres because of the psulim blockage, that's going to be excluded as well. So bottom line is, everyone agrees that if it doesn't have the proper form of ma'aseh bia, be it because it's just a hara, just a slight contact, or because there is no, and that doesn't create zera, or because it's shaloi kedarka, all agree that doesn't carry tumas kari. Regarding the first bia, which is sort of disrupted on account of the psulim, we have a machlekes. Ki also Ravan, when Ravan came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Rabbi Yechon, he quoted Rabbi Yechon as follows: Kol sheshasa achar baler eser shanim. If a woman waited 10 years after her husband's departure, so she's a widow for 10 years, v'nisis, and then she marries, shuv eni yoledes, she doesn't have the ability any longer to bear children. Her system just becomes dormant. Amar Rav Nachman lo yishana, it's only concerned ela she'ein data le'naseh, she has no plans to marry. Avol data le'naseh, but if all along she's thinking about impending marriage, mis aberes, her system is still active and she has the ability to become mu'beres. Amali Rav Bas Rav Chizda. So a story involving, Taisus alludes to the story back in Meseches Bava Basra, a few days. What happened was that Rav Chizda had a daughter. So she was sitting on his lap, and she was in the presence of two Talmidim of Rav Chizda. One was Rami Bar Chama, the other one was Rava. And Rav Chizda, the father, asks her, "No, who do you want to marry?" And she says, "Both of them." And it actually happened. She first married Rami Bar Chama, passed away, and then she went on to marry Rava. So now, Rava was married to Rav Chizda's daughter. This was her second marriage. And apparently, she had waited a long time between Rami Bar Chama's passing and her marriage with Rava. It was 10 years or more. So now, when she became expectant, Rava tells her, "Kamerani Rabbanan Basrech." You know, the Chachamim are suspicious. They're speaking about what's going on. There's something fishy here. How is it that suddenly you were able to have children after all this lapse of time? Perhaps you were involved in some sort of man in between. Amra Leisa, she tells him, "Ano datoy Allah." No, the reason is because I was anticipating this marriage. I know I'm going to marry you. She knew the whole story with them. She remembered the nevuah. So I didn't give up on it, and therefore my system is still active. Anod atoy Allah chavoy. There was another Ma'isa. The Asyakal coming to Rabbi Yosef. There was this woman who approached Rabbi Yosef. Amrla, she tells him, Rabbi, look, I'll prove you wrong. Anosha, you see, Achar Bali Eser Shanim. I had a lapse of 10 years after my husband's passing. V'yilanti. And sure enough, I gave birth. Amrla, he tells her, look, Biti, my daughter, Al Taitzi Laz, Al Dibr Chachamim. Don't negate. Don't question the Dibr Chachamim. Tell me the truth. Amrla, she tells me you're right. I interacted with a guy in between, and that's why my system is still active. And actually, the Ritva learns, it doesn't mean literally with a guy, but it means she had her mind on these types of things, and that had a hormonal effect and kept things active. Okay, so what did we learn today? We had a Mishnah where the men had their women huchlaf, and Reuven married Shimon's, and Shimon married Reuven's. We ended up with 4 liabilities. 4 things went wrong: Eishes Ach, Achos Isha, Nida, and Eishes Ish, of course, which generates 4 chatois on account of each one of these individuals. Rav Chia comes up with a number of 16 chatois total. We're following either Shittas Rav Meir, who subscribes to Isser Bavas Achas, that addresses the Eishes Ish and Eishes Ach that happen at the same time, or Isser Moisef, which happened through the Isur Nida, which affected her husband and therefore affected the brother as well as Isur Kail, which applies to Achais Isha, because when Shimon married the second Isha, Leah, it becomes Asur on all her other sisters, and therefore includes Rachel as well. So Rachel and Shimon have 4 Isurim, and likewise, the same thing in the reverse with Leah and Reuven. So it's either Reb Meir, as we see in the Mishnah there with this fellow eating 1 chazayis of chelev, and he's held accountable on all sides for chelev, for kachim, for this, for that. We see that Reb Meir holds of all these types of methods, basachas, moisef, and isur kail. Or it's Reb Shimon, who holds of isur basachas. How do you have all these 4 isurim arriving at the same time? We explained the shliach method happened here. There was 2 shluchim, one representing the men, one the women, and there was 1 masa kedushin for both men to both women. And they both, all the men and women turned adults at the same very moment, when the women were Isser Nida, and therefore the Isser Nida, as well all the other Isurim, arrived at the same time. That explains the multiple Isurim in our Mishnah. We discussed the Indian of any Ishim Saberes Bebi Rishona, unless the Besulim were manually removed, as in the case of Tamar. We discussed the offenses of Erva Oinen, who diverted their Zera. We discussed Tumas Keru, which applies when there's an interaction between Ish and Isha, but it has to be a proper interaction, as opposed to like Kedarka, or a case where it's not Mitzizera, like Ha'ara, which is an improper, incomplete interaction. In the case of the Bia Rishona, which can't generate Zera, we have Machlekes. We discussed that an Isha who waits 10 years or more without her husband, between marriages, she doesn't have the ability to give birth unless this was in the works. Da'at li nasi. All the best to you, and much, much hatzlacha.